Greetings, welcome back. This could be a long episode, so apologies for that. That's if you bother watching. It's only been 2 weeks since I did one of these. I seem to have been doing so much stuff. So, I've been reorganising again. I don't know where it started, I can't remember now. But I've basically reorganised my sort of gaming wall, or partly reorganised it, basically to make more space for PS4 and 5. But to be fair, now I've done it, it is a lot better. So I'm really pleased with the results. I don't know, it looks better, it's given me more space, and I don't know, it seems to be a bit neater as well. I'll tell you what, it's just occurred to me what started all this off. I did want to make more space, but I was continuing down the path of, I need to call some stuff after realising I'd got 2,000 games or whatever it was. And that, I thought, well, that's going to help me pay for stuff, what I've bought, and also help me create a bit of space, which it has done. So I basically decided to sell and offload all of my handheld stuff. Not that I've got loads of it, but, you know, I never play handheld. And if I do, you know, it's probably going to be the Switch, or if I'm in the house, you know, in a different room, say, I might use the PS Portal. And maybe if I'm out and about, I'd probably take one of the Evercade Hyper Pocket things with me. You know, I never ever use any other handheld, and I rarely use any at all. The PS Portal is the only one I really use to any degree handheld. So I thought, they are sacrificable. So I decided to offload all sort of DS, 3DS, PSP again. I've bought and sold PSP collections now in the times. I'm not buying it again now. So I've completely got rid of all my DS. I've got rid of all my PAL 3DS. I've just kept my Japanese console with the 3 Sega 3D Classics collections on the Japanese 3DS, which are exclusive. So I've kept that just for the odd occasion I might want to play on those Sega 3D Classics. And I've kept like a handful of PSP games. I kept the console. I thought, I'm not going to sell it. You know, I've done it so many times in the past. But all I've kept really is Outrun, Sega Rally. I can't remember, a couple of others. Like I say, I never ever use it. But should I want to play Outrun, you know, handheld, out and about, I've got the option with the PSP. So anyway, waffling on here, haven't got time to. All this further culling has created a little bit more space for me. So I've future-proofed myself for a little while now for PS4 and 5. So that was kind of 2 wins, if you like. Through doing one thing, it's caused another to be improved. That then led me on, I don't know what, then that led me on to changing the room around slightly. As things do, you know, one thing leads to another, doesn't it? Well, it does for me anyway. And I don't know, I wanted to move a little bit of stuff here, and then that sort of led to stuff over here. So I think perhaps what I take a few small videos of this while I was changing it, So I'll perhaps insert those here, I think. But basically, ever since I've had this gaming monitor, it's blew me away. Amazing. And I really don't use much else now aside from this. So I decided to myself that it'd be kind of cool to have another one on this, further down this unit here, where I've got a CRT and like an LCD. So I stripped all that out. I bought myself another monitor because they were on offer on Amazon this particular, a couple of weeks ago I think it was now. It was down to, I think it was down to 100 quid, the one I wanted. Basically the same as this. And it was also available on paying 5 interest. So basically it's £20 a month basically. Anyway, so I decided to buy this monitor. So like I say, I then had to clear this off where all the TV and the CRT was to create space for this monitor. Then having that monitor here caused me to want to move a couple of the consoles around. So I've ended up doing that. I've moved a couple of consoles that were in the arcade in here now to play on these monitors, which is better for me. I've moved the Vectrex over here, again it's better, but that then led me on to moving stuff over here, and I sort of rearranged it, wasn't particularly happy with it, so I ended up ripping all that out and starting that again, and I've just finished that this morning. So anyway, like I say, I took a couple of videos of this sort of changing around. I'll throw those in here so as you can see what I'm talking about, rather, you know, because I'm, you know, if I do another room tour next year, it's probably all going to change before then anyway, so who knows. Anyway, I'll throw it in here. Right, I've decided to make a few changes in here. In this area we're looking at here, primarily where the LCD screen and the small CRT is. And it's kind of one thing's led to another here. Basically, since I've had this gaming monitor, I've been so impressed with it. It's amazing. And I ended up buying another one for in the arcade. And I've now decided I want another one where these two screens are. So I'm going to be moving these two and replacing it with another gaming monitor. And then I'm also going to slightly change up the consoles, well, a couple of them, to make use of this new gaming monitor. I am going to lose a couple of sockets which I can't connect on this new gaming monitor, unfortunately, so I've got to make alternative arrangements there. However, I've currently only got the PS2 set up on the CRT, so I'm going to move the PS2 and I'm going to change that and put that on my CRT over on the other wall, which leaves me then with a Kallax spare. But because I'm still making changes in the garage, I did have another PS4 and a 360 in there, wasn't using them, so I'm going to put my PS4 and 360 out of the garage in here to run on this new monitor. And this PS4 is just for digital, so it'll be all my digital games on this PS4, which is just ideal since I've found so many lately. So like I say, I'm going to be changing up the PS2 from there, these two screens from here, and I'm also going to change this. I'm going to change, I think, this CRT for the one over there. So I'm going to substitute the Sony one for this one, and I think I'm going to move the Vectrex from here to over there, because I'll have more space with only the monitor on there. So we're part way through the job now. I've moved the TVs, as you can see, and I've put the Vectrex in place. It does fit quite nicely there, and it's got quite a nice height as well, so I do quite like that there. I haven't got the new monitor in yet, but I've got all the wires ready to slot it in, but just left it so I've got room to mess with stuff until I've finished, because I wasn't sure about putting the Vectrex there, but I think now it's there, yeah, I think I quite like it. And then over here I've left that as it was, kind of. I've moved the TV over a bit with the Vectrex gone. I was going to swap the TV, but there is a problem that I hadn't thought about, in the fact that I can't connect the Famicom to my Sony TV very easily. So for the moment I've got to stick with this one, and I've moved the PS1, excuse the wires, don't have a heart attack, Marcus, if you're watching. So I've moved the PS1 and PS2 from over that side. I know it seems crazy having 3 PS consoles here, but there are easier ways to do it, really. But I've had these years, so it's a PAL PS2, it's a Japanese PS1, and an American original PlayStation, so they all do different things, really. So although it seems crazy, that's the reason. So anyway, like I say, because I can't connect the Famicom very easy to the Sony TV without investigation as to how I can solve the problem, for the time being I'm sticking with this TV there, with the caveat that if I can find another way to connect the Famicom, I can then swap the TVs over. But anyway, I've obviously moved the 2 PlayStations from here to enable me to get my PS4 in, which is purely for digital stuff, and the 360, which you can hardly see being in black. So I don't use this 360. Well, it wasn't being used at all in the garage, but whether it will be here, I don't know. I don't play 360 stuff, but nevertheless, it's nice to have it there, and now it's on my monitor, so it's there should I want it. So just the monitor's fit now. Right, I'm still not happy with this area, I've got to say. So I think I'm going to rip it all out and start again. It's just too messy. And I'd kind of like to get a Tate display in here. So I don't know. I don't like how I've got these consoles organised here since I've moved that PS1 and 2. I need to readdress this. Right. It's been a bit of a longer mission than I anticipated, but I'm finally set up now. Got my 2 monitors in, moved my Vectrex. Really happy with the position of those there. That they're working better for me. I think I might have mentioned before. Now I've slightly moved some of these, and we've now got my digital PS4 and the 360 hooked up to my monitor, which is fantastic. But then I've changed this next area, obviously. I've stripped all this off and started again. Much happy with this now. The PS2 is my one niggle. I'm not mad about it there, but as it stands, that's the best place I can get it. But I've got my Tate display, which is fantastic. The consoles are set up better now, in better position than they were before. So I've got the engines just over the back there. I've got changed my CRT to the one I was hoping to, because I've now moved the Famicom, so the lead stretches far enough. So I've been able to get my Sony CRT back in, and like I say, I've got all the consoles set up more in desirable and pleasing manner, I think. But more than anything, we've got the Tarte display in. I know I still have got the other Tarte display, but that's quite large. I find this smaller. I know it's no different to having the display on a regular TV, in effect, but I don't know. I like it on that screen. I don't know what it is, 24 or something. Anyway, update finished. I'm now really pleased with this area. Right, so I'm quite pleased with how it's turned out. I really like this sort of additional monitor. It's probably not going to get as much use as this one here, purely because the PS5 and both switches are on this. But like I say, it's really nice having the option there. And because I've got a couple of because I've got like a multi HDMI thing on it, so I've got room for expansion there potentially. And I've got my now digital PS4 on these monitors as well, and the 360. So not that I use the 360, but now it's on these monitors. Maybe I might, who knows? But I'm really chuffed with these. I'm absolutely wicked, these monitors. And then, like I say, I was really not happy with this section, and I wanted to get the Sony CRT that I had here over here, but I'd got problems because where I got the Famicom, the lead wasn't long enough. So in the end, like I say, I ripped it all out and started again, moved stuff around, which enabled me to get the Sony CRT in there, because I moved the Famicom. The consoles are much better situated now for me. Looks a lot nicer, I think. Plus, I've now got the smaller Tarte setup, which I've only had a quick go on, but I'm loving it. Absolutely class. I've got the bigger Tarte setup down there, but if anything, that's a bit too big. I don't know, it just, that size screen just seems to fit my eyes or brain better. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that, because mega. Anyway, moving on from alterations. So I've said before that charity shops have really gone down the pan, all charging crazy money in the most part. There are the odd ones who aren't, but I've had last couple of months been absolutely rubbish. I've found hardly anything. The stuff I have found has been stupidly expensive, so I've not bought it. But then I did strike a small amount of gold last week, was it? Anyway, I just thought I'd quickly run through. Just vinyl, so I'm not going to hang about. But it was just nice to actually find something, having gone quite a few weeks with finding nothing. But anyway, this last week I've managed to drop on a nice single. We've got a-ha, Take On Me. I don't generally buy singles, but when it's something kind of cool, you know, I don't mind. And then I dropped on 3, which this is kind of the stuff you hope to find and you never do. And I picked up a Haircut 100 album. Now, I'm not a Haircut 100 fan or anything particular, but I like 80s music in general, so I thought, gotta be worth a listen. What's the album called? Pelican West. Like I say, I've never owned any of their music before. I've heard some of it, obviously. It's alright, to be honest. I've had a listen to it. There's a couple of decent tracks that I'd heard of before on it. So I was amazed, and chuffed to find that. Then next up, this, I think I paid £3 for this, which is, but because of what it was, I thought £3 I'm happy with. Anyway, we picked up an Adam Ant album. There's a bit of damage on the sleeve, unfortunately. It's in generally good condition, but it must have got damp at some point and it's got stuck to something and it pulled the colour off. I've never owned much Adam Ant stuff, and I've certainly never had or listened to this album. But just anything 80s, I'll generally buy if it's in a charity shop. I'll listen, because it's cool music. It's my era. Anyway, I bought this and didn't know what to expect. It's really, really good. I like his classic stuff, but that I'd never listened to before, and really surprised me. Then this one, this is going back a couple of 3 weeks now, perhaps, I can't remember. But anyway, we picked up a Huey Lewis album. Again in a charity shop. I can't remember how much this one was, maybe £1 or £2. For the album name is, but basically, again, I'm not a Huey Lewis fan in particular, obviously, except the Back to the Future stuff, but this has got The Power of Love on it, as in like the one that's in Back to the Future. So I thought, gotta buy this. And it's also got Hip to Be Square, which I do remember, and I don't know if it features on the soundtrack to Back to the Future. I can't remember. And Stuck With You, which again I knew. But anyway, it turns out this is also really quite a good album. So it doesn't happen very often, but when you do drop on some cool 80s stuff, it's really nice. And it's just reinvigorated me slightly because I've had so little recently. And then last week, I dropped on in another charity shop a bunch of like 90s era stuff, kind of dancey type stuff. Not my bag really, but I bought them all purely because you don't see that kind of stuff very often, and I'm going to have a listen to them and just to see what I think. But again, it was amazing to find such stuff. I just thought I'd throw that in. So, don't give up on the charity shops. You've got to keep plugging away. Right. There was something else I was going to mention. Ah, yes. A couple of weeks ago, about a week ago, I had this ad pop up on, I don't know what it was. It could have been Instagram or it could have even been on YouTube. I can't remember. This ad popped up anyway. As they do, cookies and analytics. You've only got to pause on something and you get inundated with adverts, don't you, for weeks afterwards. Anyway, this ad popped up for a Switch controller on AliExpress. And I wasn't in the market for a Switch controller, to be honest. I'd recently bought one, funnily enough, like a Pro controller. So I've got a proper Pro controller on both my Switch 1 and my Switch, like separate one for my Switch 1 and Switch 2. So I wasn't in need of another one. But this ad popped up and I thought, that really looks quite cool. And it wasn't I think it was around 20 quid. So, fairly cheap for a sort of a Pro controller style thing. So I thought I'd take a chance, I'll order it. Anyway, it's come this morning. The name on it is GameSir, GAMESIR. And it come within a week, and the box it came in was a bit, the box was a bit flimsy, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, I opened the box, and this is inside. I thought, what the hell's that? That's not what I've ordered. Anyway, it turns out this is like a moulded controller case. Amazing thing. It's like a second skin for your controller, and it's kind of in a almost a transparent smoked black colour. Anyway, because I didn't order a black controller, so anyway I opened it up and then realised what it was, and it blew me away. As you can see, it's like a complete replica of the controller, but in like a hard plastic case. Amazing. Within that you get like a USB stick, because you can also use this controller to connect to an Android phone, I believe, for Steam and for PCs. Anyway, the actual controller was pink, obviously, but I've got to say the quality and the feel of this has blown me away. On top of the amazing case, this feels beautiful to hold. It feels really premium, and it feels exceedingly similar in shape to an actual Pro controller. It's honestly, I've not tried it yet, it's only come this morning, but everything about it, even the D-pad, feels amazing. And you can get these in various colours. I think there's about 5 or 6 colours. So I think I'm going to order another one now once I've tried this, make sure it works alright. But it's beautiful premium feel to the plastics, and it's got like, I don't know if you'll see on the camera, probably not, it's like it's textured on the bottom half of here, and it just feels nice, proper premium quality to it. Amazing. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there in case you're in the market for a Switch controller, or if you want one for PC or whatever. But it's just the cover and case, rather, absolutely amazing. If you've got to take it somewhere with you, ingenious. I'm going to try it later, and if it's alright, I shall be buying another one. I'm going to buy like a Yoshi green one next. That's obviously a peach pink. You can get like there's a yellow one, there's your bog standard black, I think there's a grey, and then there's a blue one as well, like a pale sky blue with darker blue buttons. Like I say, about 20 quid on AliExpress. Right, that then brings me on to the games I've been playing through in the past fortnight since the last one of these videos. Again, there's quite a few to get through, so I'm not going to mess about. I think there's another 10 games I've played through in the past 2 weeks since the previous video. So I'll try and put some footage up here where possible, if I've taken any, and we'll see where we go. Most of these are physical. I think there's 2 digital I've played through. The first one is digital, and I think I'd got it on the screen in the last video, sort of saying how cool this looked, and I might play that next. Well, I did, and that is The Light in the Darkness. Digital only, and it's completely free to download, because it's been made, I think, by one, I think it's a one-man operation, more or less. Because basically it's a Holocaust type educational story driven game. It's quite short. I think it was only about an hour and a half long, but and it's quite simplistic really. Obviously it's free and it's a one-man operation, I believe, so you know, it's not going to push your PS5 to the limit. But that's not the point. I'm sure we all know about the Holocaust, but I think the aim of the game was to educate the younger generation by making it in game form, to try and educate people, I suppose, which, you know, hats off, kudos to the developer. But it's done really well. It's obviously, it's quite a harrowing game. You kind of know what's going to happen. If, obviously, you know, which I'm sure we all do. But it's really well done, I think, considering it's free. And it's obviously a harrowing tale, like I say, and, you know, you kind of know what to expect. But that said, if I'm sure enjoyed is the right word, but it was I'm glad I had the experience, I think, is the point. And, you know, if you have interest in that, you know, I'd recommend playing through it. That's The Light in the Darkness. I'm assuming it's on other platforms as well as I played it on the PS5. Right, next up, I then played Turbo Boost Racing. Now, I've had this some time. I don't think it's appeared on a pickups yet because I'm so far behind. But I'd had my eye on this for some time, and it's fairly cheap, and it doesn't get very good reviews. And I thought, well, that's obviously why it's cheap, because it's not much good. But I think I bought this off eBay, and 15 quid maybe is in my head, something like that. But although it's cheap, it's not particularly common. There's not like a ruck of these about to choose from. And I can't remember if CEX stocked this. I've got a feeling they don't, but anyway, or they hadn't got any or something. Anyway, like I say, there's not many about, but then this one popped up and I bought it. And I'd been playing through all these more adventure experience type games, and I thought I need to get back to kind of my roots and play an arcade racer, which is what this is. But like I say, the reviews aren't good, but I thought I'll try it, you know, open mind, see what I think myself. I do kind of agree with the reviews. The controls are the problem on this. It's a bit of a bugger to control, in the fact that the cars are extremely twitchy. There's absolutely no weight to them, and it's the merest of movements on the analog stick to turn the car. It's incredibly sensitive and lightweight feel to the cars. Initially I thought, I'm not going to be able to play this. It's too much. You know, the controls are too rubbish. But I persevered, and I kind of got used to it. I don't think I ever felt like I've kind of mastered it necessarily. I did get used to it, and I played through the entire game. It's quite a short game, really. It's essentially a series of very arcadey. It's just basically a series of championships where I forget how many races there are in each championship. It might be 10 possibly, and there's like 4 or 5 championships or something. I forget now. But you essentially just race through these championships, and it's on a Mario Kart style. You know, you get so many points for a win, and if you scored the most points at the end of the championship, you win the championship, and you know, you open up the next one, and that's all there is to it. There's nothing else aside from that. I think it looks quite decent. It's not pushing your PS5, but I think it looks reasonable. You know, it's very much an arcade look to it. What we used to like, or what I liked in the 90s, it's kind of an evolution of that. I would say probably low budget, but to be honest, I enjoyed it more than I was expecting. Once I kind of got used to the controls, I enjoyed my playthrough of it. Can't remember how long it took me. 2 or 3 hours maybe to go through it all. It wasn't like massive, but it was definitely worth my time, and I started off thinking I'm going to be selling this, but no, I shall keep it. It's good. Well, maybe it's probably 6 out of 10, I would say. I think that's about where I am, but a 6 out of 10 racer to me is worth keeping. Right, next up, I carried on the racer theme, and I then tried Classic Racers Elite. Now, again, I've seen this in CEX in the past, and I've been put off by the box art and the fact it's Funbox Media, because I think the box art's really low rent, and Funbox Media stuff generally, what I've played, is terrible. Well, that's a bit harsh perhaps, but it's of a type, isn't it? Fairly low rent. So the combination of the two, I thought, I'm not wasting my money. And then I don't know if I read a review or something which painted it in a better light than I thought it might. Anyway, for whatever reason, I ended up buying this. I think I bought it new. Because I'm sure I'd seen it in a local CEX and I didn't buy it. Then read the review, then bought it on Amazon, and then I've seen it again since in a local CEX, and I think it's only a tenner in CEX now. However, don't let the box fool you. This is really good. I absolutely love this. Fantastic game. It's essentially a hill climb game. If you're into car racing, you know where a hill climb is. It's not all hill climbs, but there's a lot of it hill climb style racing. It's all like time trial based, you against the clock. Like I say, hill climbs in a reasonable amount, and then there's some other like more track based levels. Again, it's quite similar in setup to that Turbo Boost Racing, in the fact that you've got a series of championships, and you've basically got to sort of do one race to open up the next lot of championships, and you just slowly work through the game, and as you work through the game you open up different cars you can use within each level. Some levels you can use any cars, some other levels I think you've got to use a certain type of car. Or was that Turbo Boost Racing? One of them anyway. But anyway, this plays really well, and although the graphics are kind of simplistic, you know, it's perhaps more like a PS3 game, I personally thought it was great. If you're into arcade races, don't let this box fool you. This is really good and worth checking out. Classic Racers Elite. I'd give that 8 out of 10, I think. Honestly, it really surprised me. It's really, really good. Right. Next up, I played Gris. PS5, obviously. And this is a 2D puzzle platformer. Now, I first saw Pixel Paul talk about this a couple of months ago now, I think, and he recommended it, and I think it must have, you know, stuck in the back of the mind somewhere. And then when I'd got into these sort of adventure experience games, and I'd watched some like recommended top 20 videos, whatever, this came up more than once, and coupled with that memory in the back of the mind, I thought, I need to play this. So I decided to put it in, obviously. Very nice looking game. Lovely art style. Hopefully I've put some footage up so you can see. It's one of these games, there's no story, no explanation. You're just thrown straight in there, much like Hoa. And it's kind of in your mind as to what's going on. Basically, you're this character, and each level has a different theme and a different colour, sort of, to the backdrop. You know, it might be like red or yellow, and they're kind of your emotions, if you like. Because it's your character sort of falls off this statue and sort of falls down the screen, and it's like, it's down to you really to determine what's going on. It's kind of like this character, this is your character. It's kind of your character's ascent from, I don't know what you could take it in many ways, I think, really, but you could determine it as your character's rise from grief to recovery, or, you know, it could mean a multitude of things to a multitude of people. It's kind of open-ended, really, but it's a really nice experience. A cracking game. Again, I think that was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours maybe, I can't remember off the top of my head. Might not have been that long. It was a few hours, not, I mean, generally speaking, I don't like massive long games. You know, all this stuff, or a lot of this stuff I've bought, especially like the adventure type stuff, I always check, you know, kind of how long to beat before I buy anything. Because if it's like 20 hours, I just haven't got the patience. I'm not interested. Ideally, I like something, say, 3 to 5 hours completion. That's perfect for me. More than 5, you know, sort of 5 to 10 hours I can perhaps cope with, but 10 hours plus, no. I'm just, it's not for me. I'm not going to play it. Or I'm not going to stick at it anyway. So, yes, Gris. Very, very good game. Thoroughly recommend it if you like 2D puzzle platformers that have got kind of a emotional, spiritual maybe flavour to them. Really, really good. Right, next up, yes, I played a Switch game, and I played Snufkin, which is a tale set in the world of the Moonmins, if you remember them from back in the 80s when we were kids. Snufkin, Melody of Moonmin Valley. Now this is a really nice game. It's essentially kind of a very child-friendly basic Zelda game, I would say, really. It's that kind of aesthetic. It's got a lovely sort of hand-drawn art style, much like, I don't know, like a painting, I suppose. But, you know, it's got the same sort of movement and viewpoint as Link to the Past, only with sort of slightly nicer graphics. And you're this character, Snufkin, and basically the premise of the game is you are trying to get to your friend Moonmin Troll. But there are obviously a multitude of obstacles from when you start the game to when you actually reach Moonmin Troll. Because there's would you believe there's an evil person who's taken over the kingdom, and it's your job to rid the kingdom of this evil person and restore peace and harmony to their community. Novel idea, eh? Like I say, it's really child friendly. It's quite a simplistic game in many ways. It's got some puzzle elements. None of the puzzles are particularly taxing. It's got the same things you would expect, like certain parts of the map are off limits to start with until you do things. And then when you open, or when you do certain things, it opens up different areas that you can then explore. And eventually, you know, you work your way and you can access the whole map. It's not a massive map, it's fairly small. There's obviously lots of characters to meet within the Moonmin universe. There's quite a bit of it's kind of don't be put off. It's there's a few stealth sections, but it's basic. You know, I'm not into stealth games. This is basic. It's just basically manoeuvring around a maze without alerting the police, who shine torches, and you've just got to move when the torches are, you know, off. Basically, it's quite simple. But yeah, it's got a lot of charm. It's bang up my street. I love games with charm. So again, I thoroughly recommend this. This isn't like mega cheap. It's like 30 odd quid, I think. And I think it's Switch exclusive. But if you like sort of early Zelda games, I'm sure you're going to get a kick out of that. Right, next up, we're back on the PS5, and I then played Sonic Superstars. I've had this some time. Now, I'm not a Sonic fan, really. In fact, I used to think the Mega Drive ones were great, don't get me wrong. Loved them at the time. But since then, I've really not been bothered by Sonic. And, you know, 3D Sonic, for me, doesn't work. So, consequently, when it went to 3D in the Dreamcast era, I never bothered with it. I thought the Dreamcast game was awful. And I don't think I've played another 3D one since, except Colours briefly on the Wii, which I seem to remember was okay. And I did buy Sonic Mania whenever that came out, but for whatever reason I've never got around to playing it. But then obviously I bought this. I can't remember why, it must have been cheap, I think, because like I say, even now the Mega Drive games, they've got the charm, don't get me wrong, but for me, I do find that a Sonic game, it's limited by its USP, in the fact that its USP is like supersonic speed, which works amazing on like Green Hill Zone. But then when you go to later levels, you know, they're far more technical. The speed's irrelevant because you can't run fast enough because there's too many obstacles. So it's then just another platform game, isn't it? And there are better ones, i.e. Mouse Mario. Anyway, getting back to the point, Sonic Superstars. I decided to try this, and it kind of really surprised me because it's damn good. This graphically amazing, looks beautiful. All the levels, more or less, you would say, are spectacular looking. And there's about, I don't know, 10 different worlds. Most of them have got like a couple of zones each. And like I say, they look incredible. Plays really well. You get a choice of 4 characters to start with, I think. Or 3, is it? 3 or 4. Obviously Sonic, Tails. What do you open? You've got Sonic. What do you open up? Tails. Anyway, you end up with Sonic, Tails, Knuckles and Amy Rose, which you can then choose whichever one you want to play the game with. And I think there are achievements for playing through with each one. Not for me. I found Amy Rose was the best character because she's got a double jump. Made the game far better. So I used Amy Rose, and she's pink. On the whole, love the game, which I never thought I would, to be honest. But it's there's a big slice of frustration with it for me, which stops it from being an absolute winner. That is the boss battles. They're far too drawn out. They're far too frustrating. And it kind of spoils the game for me. Because, you know, like in the original Mega Drive games, you know, it used to be 8 hits, hadn't it? And, you know, Robotnik was dead. And you could sometimes jump on him 2 or 3 times at the same time, couldn't you? You know, it was fairly straightforward. This is still fairly straightforward, but my issue with this game is the fact that each boss battle, you only get one chance to hit him, and then you have to sit through like 30 to 45 seconds of his attack pattern before you can then hit him again. So consequently, the boss battles really, really drag on. That I found them exceedingly irritating. They're not necessarily difficult, though a couple I found were really doing my head in. It's just how drawn out they are. It really wound me up, you know, terribly. And it really stopped the game from being kind of a good 9 out of 10. And I would say it pushed it back to more like a 7.5 out of 10. I'd still recommend playing it. It is in most ways a cracking game, but it's just also exceedingly irritating at times. Right, next up, and I'm trying to I think that was because of each and all the levels on Sonic, they're quite long as well. So that was quite a few hours to get through that, as I remember. Anyway, next up, I played Copycat, again on the PS5. I think this is PS5 exclusive. Now this is kind of, not that I've played it, I think this is in a similar mould to Stray, which I did have when I bought my PS5. Stray came with it in the bundle, and I immediately booted it into CEX. I wished I'd kept that now. Anyway, I bought this because it came up on some, when I was looking into like experience adventure type games. This is really, really, really good. The premise here is the fact it's about life in many ways, really. It's told through the eyes of a cat. You're the cat, and it's really about life, abandonment, love, family, finding a new way forward, if you like. It's one of these. It's a bit like Gris, really. You can read into it up to a point, what you will, really. Basically, at the start of the game, you're the cat, and you're in like a cat's home, and there's an elderly lady who comes to rescue you from the cat home. But it turns out this elderly lady is a bit poorly, and she's replacing a cat that's lost, but she's also a bit confused. There's kind of, you're wondering, is there some dementia possibly elements, and it's basically this relationship between this elderly lady and you as the cat,
go for a ride before May
of life moving forwards. And there are many ups and downs, and the cat kind of talks to its own psyche, if you like. The cat's psyche is kind of a character in the game, and you'll sort of talk to yourself in like the third person, and the cat kind of takes on the personality, and it's got a voice like a human because it's talking to its own sort of psyche. It's really good. I can't really say any more without spoiling the story. Why it's called Copycat becomes clear. But I'm really keen to try Stray now. Anyway, next up, I then played there's a demo of Bubsy 4D I downloaded. Again, I saw an advert on Instagram, I think it was, saying there was a free demo. Or it could have been YouTube, I can't remember. But anyway, I decided to download this demo because obviously Bubsy is notoriously quite a bad game, isn't it? Especially the 3D one. I did actually like the original SNES one back in the 90s. But even that now, I think it's not great, is it? That's like a poor version of Sonic. So anyway, I decided to download this Bubsy 4D because I'd seen it was coming out on the Switch 2, and I thought, oh, well, quite nice to have a new Switch 2 game. I downloaded this demo because I'd seen something that somebody was saying it was really good. So I downloaded it. The first 5-10 minutes of playing it, I thought, this is actually really good. I'm going to pre-order this. And I nearly did. And then I played it some more. I wasn't so keen. I did put initially when I was playing it, I put an Instagram post out saying, wow, this is actually really good. Can you believe it? But I deleted it because the more I played it, the more I found it frustrating. And now I'm not going to be buying it because I thought it was too irritating. I found the movement of Bubsy quite annoying. It was hard to judge where you were jumping, and some of the camera work I felt wasn't up to the job. So it kind of reverted back to what I thought it might be, in the fact it seemed a bit rubbish to me. So that'll no doubt be in the bargain bin in no time. Anyway, next up, we're nearly there. I then played through Slappin' Beans 2, which I think I mentioned on the previous pickups video. That I nearly played it, a while ago, and then something else came and I decided not to. But anyway, I've decided to actually play it now. I wasn't aware when I bought it. Bud Spencer and Terence Hill were like a notorious film duo, like from movies. I didn't know that. It's only since I bought this I've found that out. And I've recently watched one of their films, thanks to Sean, who recommended which ones to try first on Instagram. One of the start with the Trinity films, he told me. So I watched this first Trinity film. It was all right, reasonable. I wouldn't mind watching the others. Some are better than others, from what I've read. Anyway, beside the point. Yeah, these are kind of known for making sort of buddy, escapade caper movies. This is a scrolling beat 'em up, essentially, but it's also got a mixture of puzzle platforming mixed in with it. It's got there's about 7 or 8 mini games at various points. There's quite a nice kind of dialogue and story throughout the game between the characters, and it's in a beautiful sort of 2D pixel art style. Really, it looks fantastic, kind of like a Neo Geo style game. in graphical terms. But yeah, it's essentially it's a 2D beat 'em up, scrolling beat 'em up, which, you know, I do like them. Streets of Rage is one of the best games ever made, but for me, the others, they get repetitive fast, and I get bored with 2D brawlers, if I'm honest. Except Streets of Rage. That's the only one really that holds my interest enough to play it all the way through. The clever thing with this is it's punctuated with these other elements. So even within the level, you'll get little snippets of dialogue moving the story on. And then you'll get these. It's not like regular, but it's, you know, you might be once a level. There's dialogue throughout, but then on some levels you get some puzzle platforming where you can interchange, because you can play as either character, Bud Spencer or Terence Hill, and you can switch on the fly because it's permanent 2-player, but the computer controls the other player, and you can choose to, you know, you can switch character mid-level whenever you want. But on these puzzle platform levels, you have to use both of them in like a Lost Vikings style, where you have to use one to get the other, you know, to get them both to the one area on the level you've got to get to, you've got to use them both in a different way. So that kind of breaks things up. And then on most levels, there'll be some kind of mini game that's strewed into the story in some clever way. You know, there's like a rhythm game, there's like a card game, there's like a follow the item game, like the bonus stage on Tapper. What else is there? I can't remember now. Oh, there's like a bout battling game. There's you know, it's really, it's out there. You know, there's some imagination gone into it. But there's also a Pelota, like a squash type game. That's probably the best one. That's really quite good. But it just serves to break up the 2D brawler element, which I think, for me personally, works really well, because I find it really monotonous when it's just a constant brawler. But then it works like a traditional 2D brawler, and you know, you get to the end of the level, there's usually some kind of a boss. But not always. Some of the levels end without a boss. And there's about 8-10 levels, as you'd expect. But some of the levels are long, which brings me on to my negative about the game and why it's similar to Sonic Superstars. Because in most ways, this is amazing. I would also say, as well as the presentation, the sound and the music in it is brilliant. And having watched the film, it's really, really similar to how the films are, and some of the music is out of the film I watched, and you can clearly see where they've had the inspiration from, because if you like the films, I would imagine you're going to like this. But my big negative with the game is, in some sections, you are overrun with enemies. They come out in an absolute swarm and descend on you en masse, like kind of Robotron. It's just, they are everywhere, they fill the screen, and it's constant button bashing. And I found that a bit monotonous, to be honest, and quite irritating. It's not all the time. It's worse in some of the boss battles, especially the later boss battles, where you get there's like some of these cyborg type characters, and they can be a bugger to kill. And some of these boss battles are like in 4 phases, and it really gets tedious, especially if you've got like to the final phase and it's game over. You know, you lose your energy and you've got to do it all again, and some of these levels can take 20-30 minutes, you know, sometimes, which, you know, on screen it says like completion time 8 minutes, and you think, no, it isn't. I've been playing this for 20-30 minutes. So that's the one detraction I've got from the game. There are at times way too many enemies on screen for me. It just, you're absolutely swamped and overrun with them, and it's exceedingly difficult to cope with. And I played through this on easy, so at times I thought, there's no way I'm going to do this, and I was exceedingly close on the one boss. I was exceedingly close to quitting and thinking, no, I'm leaving it there, I can't do any more. But I decided to have one more go, and I did it, and then I completely finished the game off. Again, I'd say this is probably, I don't know, 5-6 hours, something like that, to go through it. But on the whole, it's a fantastic game. It looks and sounds brilliant. Absolutely love it. And these two as characters are great. And like I say, the way the story moves on and some of the dialogue's really good, and it's fantastic. It's just that one niggle. Again, much like Sonic, it takes it from being like a 9.5 out of 10, probably back down to maybe an 8 out of 10 for me, that one. It is really good, but it's just got that one proviso. Right, that then leads me on to the last game I've played through, which is Selma and the Wisp, which is digital only, which I've played on the PS4. I would assume you can play it on other things as well. Now this, fairly short game, another 2D puzzle platformer. Got really quite a nice art style, I think. It's essentially your character. There's like a little girl is the character, but you actually control the wisp, which is like a ball of light almost. And wherever you move this wisp, your character Selma will follow. But there are many obstacles within the level, and then there are 10 levels stroke 11 in the game. Obviously it gets more difficult, but some levels are harder than others. And so, it is a challenge at times, but most parts it's really not too bad. But the kind of gimmick is this wisp. Selma has got there's like a heart, and there's various points within the level. There are like beams of light, and you can recharge the wisp because it diminishes as time you waste time within the level. The light diminishes in the wisp, and when the light diminishes, the light in the game diminishes, and it gets darker and darker, so you can't see. But you can recharge at these points within each level, and as you move the wisp away from Selma, because there's a button you can press to, she'll either follow the wisp or she'll stay still, and you can move the wisp to do stuff while she remains stationary. But the further you move away from her, her heart goes down and she will die if you stop away too long. So there's kind of two things going on. But you've essentially got to guide her from the start to the finish by either disabling obstacles or moving things from A to B to do things within the level so as it makes the path for her safe. Really lovely art style. Kind of, I suppose there are horror elements really. It's kind of like this girl, Selma, is kind of living a nightmare. That's kind of the premise. And the end of the game is kind of a bit weird. I'm obviously not going to say. But it's essential. It feels like, it's a journey through her nightmare, if you like. It's really good. I really, really enjoyed it. You could probably go through it in half an hour, maybe. But you're going to die a lot during the playthrough. It's going to take you multiple attempts probably to do some levels. So certainly initially you're not going to do it in half an hour. But I would imagine, you could definitely speedrun it in probably 20 minutes, if that. Once you've got used to what you've got to do and where to move and such like. But really, really good. And the one level in particular is like on a fun fair, and there's some real sort of cues to films and, you know, pop culture, and really well done. And it was really cheap. I looked actually, and I think I paid 79 pence for it. I think the actual price is about 8 or 10 quid, but it was like 90% discount when I bought it. So, you know, amazing value. A thoroughly brilliant game for less than £1 what I paid. So I thoroughly recommend that if it gets dropped again, you know, jump on it if I were you. If you like a puzzle platformer, absolutely brilliant. Right, that's the end of my list. That's the last 10 games I've completed in the last fortnight. So we'll leave it there. This has probably dragged on another hour. Let me know what you think about any of that lot. Thank you for watching if you've got this far, and see you shortly, all being well.